This is how it all began. I was testing a route that I built in Trainz 2019, which is a replica of the towns of Emmaus and Allentown, Pennsylvania, on Norfolk Southern's Reading line, which runs from Allentown to a junction where it connects with the Harrisburg line. It usually takes about 5 minutes for the train to get from the portal to the closest railroad crossing, which is the 7th Street crossing over there in the background. However, after a while I started to get a bit suspicious because the train hadn't gotten here yet, so I decided to check what happened. I went to one of the 2 trains that were headed to the crossing to check on it, only to find out that it wasn't moving. So I tried to manually give it the message to go to the portal, and I got that dreaded no path to selected destination error. Now in Trainz 2019, sometimes I get this error even when there is a path to the selected destination, so I had my doubts. So I went on into Surveyor to check on the route to see if there really was some track that was missing, and lo and behold, it's that same glitch that I had earlier, where it saved the tracks in the location where I placed them, but it saved the spline point somewhere else. For those of you who aren't aware of this glitch, I'll give you a quick recap. I have another video where I covered this glitch as well, which I'll link in the description. But basically, sometimes when I change a track height or location, it saves the track in its new location, but saves the spline point where it originally was. So when you try to load the route, you get errors like this where there are spline points that don't have any track attached to them. And then when you go to the track, it's missing a spline point. And then if you try to move the track, it'll move it back to where it used to be. And then you'll have to go through the process of realigning it over again from scratch. And so far, this is the second time I've had to do this on this route. So here we are on the Reading line. This is where the track is supposed to be. So far, so good. But look what happens when we get to the 31st Street Southwest Railroad crossing. The tracks don't have their spline points. And look, these are the spline points that belong to that railroad crossing at 31st Street Southwest. So why are the spline points here and the tracks over there? Can I get an answer about this? Because this is really frustrating. And look, it won't even let you move them. So what, I'm stuck with the tracks not being where they're supposed to be and the track not being able to plot the route because it thinks the track's supposed to be here, but they're actually over there? So why does this game hate it when you move a track so much? Why is it that I cannot move a track without it doing this? I mean, the first time this happened in this route is because I changed the height of the track. I found out how to use Google Earth to figure out how high a section of the track was supposed to be, so I set it up to its appropriate height, and then when I saved the game, it saved the tracks at 0 meters, and when I moved the track, it moved them back to 0 meters, and I had to lift them all up again from scratch, just like what I'm doing now. And in this case, some of the tracks weren't where they were supposed to be because my method for aligning them in the past was a bit obsolete, but now I discovered how to be more precise with it. So I decided to move them to their correct locations, and now I'm having this glitch again where it saved them back where they used to be, and I'm going to have to move them a second time and save it again. But it shouldn't have to happen this way in the first place. The game should save the tracks where I placed them, not where it thinks I should be placing them. Like, it should save them where I moved them, not where it wants to move them. I'm supposed to be the deciding factor in where the tracks go, not the game. This reminds me of how on Samsung Galaxy phones, when you try to change the volume yourself when listening to music on the headphones, it'll randomly change it back to where it used to be because it doesn't think that you should have it that loud. But in this case, you try to change the tracks and the game's like, I don't think the tracks are supposed to go here, so I'm going to place them over here instead. And just like that, it's equally frustrating. Thank goodness I didn't delete the rulers, or I'd be completely lost trying to figure out where the tracks are supposed to be, and I'd have to align them all over again and go through the process of figuring out where they're supposed to go all over again. So, to anyone that's making a route on Trainz 2019, I highly recommend you do not delete any of your rulers, because you might need them again if the game randomly decides not to place the tracks when you place them. The game also seems to have deleted some of the spline points I added to the track in order to better align them. So I'm going to have to create new spline points to replace the ones that it deleted and move the track back where it's supposed to go. If it sounds like I'm very angry at this game right now, it's because I am. Because this glitch is unacceptable. It should only take one attempt to move a track and save it. But no, it takes 2 attempts because you have to move the track, save the game, then reload the route, and move the track again to clean up all the mess that the game created when it saved them in the incorrect location. Look at this. This is supposed to be a switch. Gotta move that all the way over here where it's supposed to be. Again, thank goodness I didn't delete the rulers, or I'd be completely lost figuring out where it's supposed to go. Some of the tracks are lower than I saved them for some reason. Oh, look at that. Some more tracks I'm going to have to move a second time. You'll notice the track on the left is missing its spline point. Well, I'm going to have to go all the way over there and find it and move it back. I think you get the point by now. Alright, let's see. About an hour later, I finally managed to move all the tracks back to where they're supposed to be for the second time, mind you. So, let's do some more inspections to make sure the game actually saved the tracks where I placed them and not where they originally were this time. Okay, that track is saved where I placed it and not where it originally was. Big surprise, because at this point, I don't even expect the game to save the tracks where I placed them anymore. Okay, that's where I placed it. Oh, look at that, another missing spline point. Okay, let's hope the world doesn't collapse on itself when I add the spline point. Okay, I added a spline point and the tracks didn't get all screwed up for once. Haha, that's I actually won a battle against this game. Alright, that's the Main Street Bridge. Okay, it looks like the tracks are where I placed them, and it looks like it's actually gonna save them there this time, and not where they originally were. Okay, before I can test this route to make sure the trains can actually find the portal this time, let's see if the trains even have their messages to begin with. Well, that's odd. The game actually remembers the messages that I sent the trains. So why is it that it can remember the portals, but it cannot, to save its life, remember where I laid the tracks? Seeing how the game could not be bothered to save the tracks where I laid them, I'm a bit paranoid, so I'm gonna real quick check and see if it remembered the settings for the railroad crossings. Okay, it remembers the settings for the triggers for the crossings, and it also seems to remember the names of all the railroad crossings. So, it can remember all that, but not where I placed the track? I demand an explanation for this. Okay, I'm gonna put a train on the tracks so that I can have it drive to the portal to make sure it can actually navigate there using the tracks that I laid, and to make sure the game actually saved the tracks where I laid them this time. Before I test this route, I'm gonna put some track direction markers on these interlockings to make sure the train doesn't try to use them to go the wrong way down the line. Technically, there is no wrong way because the signals work in both directions on this line in real life, but if I give the train that kind of freedom to choose any track it wants, it's going to end up in a situation where there are two trains on the same track facing the opposite direction, and one of them is going to have to be reversed to get it out of the way of the other one. So I just don't want to deal with that. That's why I'm putting these track direction markers here. Oh yeah, make sure they're facing the right way, because there have been issues where I accidentally turned them the wrong way and then the train got stuck. So yeah, every single interlocking between the Allentown Yard and the 12th Street Railroad crossing, I'm going to have to place these track direction markers on them to make sure the train doesn't use these interlockings and just stays on the same track. Then everything should go according to plan. Oh yeah, the train actually did try to go down that siding once, and that siding doesn't lead anywhere. So put a track direction marker there just in case. Alright, there's one interlocking over here. Put a couple track direction markers up here so that they can't use the interlocking. Alright, that ought to fix that. Just add some more track direction markers for good measure, in case the train forgets which way it's supposed to be going. I think there's another interlocking further down. Let me make sure. Actually, no, I think that was the last one. Okay, let's save it and test this game again.
Norfolk Southern, milepost 29.9, main 2, no defects. Repeat, no defects. End of transmission. Norfolk Southern, milepost 29.9, main 2, no defects. Repeat, no defects. End of transmission. Norfolk Southern, milepost 2.9. Main 2, no defects. Repeat, no defects. End of transmission. Norfolk Southern, milepost 2.9. Main 2, no defects. Repeat, no defects. Norfolk End Southern, milepost 2.9. Main 1, no defects. Repeat, no defects. End of transmission. Norfolk Southern, milepost 2.9. Main 1, no defects. Repeat, no defects. End of transmission.